continuing to graph the trigonometric functions, this time we're going to look at a sine function that has all four possible transformations taking place. Notice there's also a negative sign in front of it, which will have an interesting effect at the end. So first we do the y-coordinates. The new center is the +1 at the end, so at center at 1. The high is 1 plus the 2, or 3, and the low is 1 minus the 2, or -1. Now to get my x-coordinates, I'm going to take the thing inside the parentheses and set it equal to my original special points. And then I solve each one for x. So here I get x is pi over 12, x is pi over 4, or 3 pi over 12. So I went from 1/12 to 3/12. In other words, I added 2/12. Adding 2/12 to 3/12 gives me 5/12, and then 7/12, and then 9/12, or 3 pi over 4. Okay? So I figured out how to get from the first to the second and use that same amount to get all the rest. Now, I'm going to make my axes. So my new center is at 1, my high is at 3, my low is at -1. Then I'm going to place my x-coordinates. Now, here's the first time we're going to use the fact that there was a negative sign in front of the sine. Traditionally, sine will start at the center and move up, but negatives switch everything. So I'm going to start at the center and move down. Then center, high, center. And this is my graph. Okay. All right. So now that we've done a fairly complicated sine graph, the next thing is to start looking at all the other graphs. And mostly, the only difference comes in the pattern of points at the end. Okay, so first, let's look at the generic graph of cosine. It too will have 5 special points. The coordinates have not changed, so it's -1, 0, 1 for the y, 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi for the x. The only thing that's different between sine and cosine is sine started at the center and moved up, and cosine starts at the top and moves down, which means that we can graph it using the same method until the very end when we're placing points. So let's do an example of cosine. Alright, so our new center is the -2 at the end. To get the high, I take the -2 plus 4, gives me 2. To get the low, I take the -2 minus 4, gives me -6. To get my x-coordinates, I take the thing inside parentheses and set it equal to my original 5 special points. And solve for x. So here I get x is -3 pi over 5, and then x is 9 pi over 10ths. This is really -6 over 5 to 9, or excuse me, -6 over 10 to 9 over 10. To get between those, I'm adding 15 over 10 each time. So here I'm going to get 24 over 10, or 12 pi over 5. Then I'm going to get 39 pi over 10. Then I'm going to get, add in 15, 54 over 10, or 27 over 5. Okay. And now we go to graph it. Our center is at -2, our high is at 2, our low is at -6. We're going to label our x coordinates. It doesn't matter that they are exactly in the right place. What matters most is that they are equally spaced, and of course if they're negative or positive, they need to be on the right side of the y-axis. Now, so far this has been the same as graphing a sine, but this is a cosine, so our first point, instead of being on the center, will be high, and then center, low, center, high. Make sure to not connect these with lines. You want to connect them with curves that almost look like they're part of a circle.